Let me say, is this Mr. Seeraram?
Speaking.
Hey, Ved Seeraram, our financial consultant with us. I want to thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you on The Observer. Hope you're well and doing healthy to you and your family.
Yes, thank you, Mikee.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to get to the bread and butter issues. And that is, when you talk about a mid-year review, what does that mean for us as citizens? Because the opposition is saying that despite there being over $418 billion in expenditure, the economy remains substantially smaller than when this government came into power in 2015. What does that mean for us as average citizens?
Well, what it means to say that what we have to live on has shrunk significantly over the last 7 years, 8 years, and we have to adjust our lifestyle to suit. However, it is very difficult for persons who are living a middle-class family to make those adjustments, unless, of course, something drastic happens. And something drastic, by that I mean that you've lost your job, the banks are now foreclosing on your assets, your motor car, your house, etc. So I think those things are actually growing. It's growing in Trinidad, and whilst we can look at some of the figures that the government throws out concerning the GDP, concerning growth rate, etc., those things are not filtering down to the normal population. So I think that is true, that the economy has shrunk significantly, maybe 15-20%, and we have to make adjustments. The problem is that the people in the upper echelon who still have control of the reins of the economy and who have their jobs and so on, are not willing to make those adjustments, and the adjustments are left to the middle class and lower class.
Yeah, but that we are being told by the finance minister that there's economic recovery. He's no longer just saying things have turned around. He's saying basically we've recovered, we've bounced back, we've had some turbulence, but now it seems as though there's clear clear flying or clear sailing, as the term may be. Yet still, there's no mention of any direct foreign investment, as far as also having plans for those who were affected during the pandemic. Just to look at 100 workers from the Caribbean Dockyard and Engineering Services carried up were given letters of temporary dismissals yesterday by the company's management. So when you hear these words as far as recovery, but you don't see the recovery in your pocket, in your purse, or especially in your personal spending, then what are we being told by the government?
Yeah, Mikey, I have lost faith in what is being announced by the government, It has no relevance except for creating some image, some imaginary situation of hope. But quite frankly, when you look at the ground, when you see the ordinary lives of people that has been deteriorating, that they can't buy gas to go to work, you can't buy. Soon we wouldn't be able to buy gas for our stove and so on. We would not be able to pay for electricity. So there's a significant amount of painful adjustment that is taking place in Trinidad and Tobago that has no semblance of reality, of any growth, of any turnaround. So I think people on the ground knows. And I think the government, of course, they are still getting their salaries. They're probably increasing it by way of perks and so on. And they're still living a good life. So they are not the ones who should be gauging the state of the economy. We need to go beyond that and actually do surveys and with realistic figures.
Yeah, but when you talk about the fact that we wouldn't be able to purchase these basic items, it still lies in the psyche of many of our citizens that I don't think we'll ever get there. That's just old talk. Nobody's, the government or whoever is not going to allow that to happen. But basically, I mean, we can't keep running the way we're running now as far as having a stagnant economy, compounded with the fact that if you have a child and you give him or her an allowance, and they come back and tell you, look, I blew it. I need more money. But there's nothing to show exactly what they did with it as far as being constructive, as the case may be. Then is it that we're just putting bad money after bad money? And what sort of module is that for an economy that's looking to grow?
Well, I think we are still looking and dependent upon what happens to oil price and gas prices. But I want to make this very, very clear. Even if there's an uptick in gas prices and oil prices, whatever benefit comes, it only benefits the few in that industry. What escapes in that particular industry comes to government. Government throws into a hole for the simple reason that they are funding unproductive expenditures, and some of that will filter through the rest of the population. But by and large, don't expect anything good to come from it. Don't expect anything good to come from it. But coming back to the mid-year review, I don't know if you recognize that they came and asked Parliament for an additional, I think, 3.8 or 2.8 billion for expenditures.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that mean? It means to say that their original estimates were wrong. I keep saying that they miscalculate the deficit when they present the national budget in September. And they have to come back to the market. They come back for about $4 billion. And most likely they're going to come back again because the deficit was over $8 billion. Over $8 billion. So where are they going to get that money? They have to come and borrow it. So, we are presenting time, year after year, wrong information in the budget. And I've made that exposure for the last 5 or 6 years that they are miscalculating the deficit every year. So they have to come back, and they'll come back again before the next budget.
Yeah,
so
but let me ask you this. At this point in time, and I know this may be crossing over into the political arena, although we're talking about economic, but it seems to be so entwined with this administration. Can they afford to continue without getting some sort of, should I say, a fresh mandate before 2025?
Well, decency requires them to come back to the population because things are not going good. Our Heritage and Stabilization Fund is down, I think, to about $5 billion. I think I was looking at the figures today. I believe that was the figure exposed by the IMF in their Article 4. So when you look at Article 4, that will tell you stories that are not very confident that things are turning around. In fact, this is subject to world prices and subject to this. That's like me telling you, Mikey, you're looking very good, but subject to your heart condition, subject to your... So if you're subject to so many conditions, there's no level of confidence that the economy is going to grow. There's none. And they talk about headwinds. The headwinds assuming that the world economy picks up and so on, but the war in Ukraine is not stopping. So what's the implication for oil prices and oil supply? If you look at America today, it's virtually crumbling. If you look at the level of homelessness in all the major cities, I'm talking globally now, it is very, very difficult to overcome the difficulties that COVID-19 has caused. 3 years of suffering, 3 years of suffering. And we are not going to get over that just by snapping our fingers or a rise in oil prices. Yeah. Because there are too many things and events that are happening in the world. Whilst you might find one particular trend is favorable, there are another two trends that are not favorable. If you study the UK economy, they are projecting severe recession for the foreseeable future. In other words, they do not see a way out of the quagmire they have found themselves in, and for various reasons.
And let me ask you, is it fair to say that most of this money that they're requesting for, based on this mid-year review, do you believe that much of that money is going to go towards perhaps election campaigning?
Well, there'll be some of it in terms of fixing roads and so on, but most of it will go for recurrent expenditures. and to pay back debt. That money you're not going to see any returns. I see some economists saying it's great if they borrow the $4 billion once it's put to productive use. So let me stick a pin there. Tell me over the last 10 or 15 years, where has money spent in productive investments? Where? When I say productive investment, meaning to say that government has made an investment that is showing a return, that to pay back the debt, where they borrowed money, spend the money, and where did that investment, where are those investments that bringing back positive returns to government to pay back the debt? Not one, Mikey, not one.
Yeah, and also there's an extension as far as the taxes, where you have the opposition, Senator Wade Mark, saying, listen, you're only making this extension because you don't have money and you're trying to get liquidity. And if that be the case, then again, a lot that is being told to us, at some point in time, the bubble is about to burst. It has to. I mean, we can't simply keep going on the way that we're going right now, functioning the way we're functioning. So if you had to give advice to the citizenry, as far as the reality that we're expected to face in the near future, what would you tell them?
Right. What I would recommend to the population is very simple. Do not depend on government for any handouts. They don't have it. They might sprinkle a few at election time, with the local elections, and from borrowed money. There are basically two sources of funding for government now. That they borrow money, and secondly, that they're taking things on credit and they're not paying their bills. That's a massive form of source of funding. For example, if I take services and goods and services from you, Mikey, and don't pay you, that's debt. So different forms of debt. One is from the bank, one is from the foreign banks, one from the local bank, and then one is from the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago by way of not paying them for the goods and services. And the other form is not giving the people their dues, such as VAT refund and so on. So that is how the government is funding now. That is how the government, apart from taxes, taxes are not as what they expected, and they are not going to be the taxes that they projected in the budget for the simple reason the tax base is shrinking.
Yeah,
is it not buying like before?
Yeah, so is it that the narrative has changed a bit as far, you don't hear much about the property tax anymore? Is it just a matter because we're going into election mode, and hopefully after that, if things go in such a favor, then we'll hear about this once again, because that basically has quieted down for a little while.
Well, the property tax, I've written extensively about it. It's a very unfair tax because you're being double taxed. You just bought the house, you pay tax for it, and now that you have to pay an additional, it's like a mortgage.
Yeah.
It's like a second mortgage. First of all, you borrowed money from the bank, you pay back your mortgage. When you finish, you're paying a parallel mortgage in terms of property tax.
Yeah. Mr. Seeraram, I want to thank you so much for joining us as always. And so the bottom line is, don't expect from the government, because the government doesn't have to give you. And so basically we have to fend for ourselves. Is that correct?
You are on your own.
All
like
right.
it or not, you're on your own.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Mikey.
So we will talk. Thank you so much.